What's up, everybody? Clinton Foshee here, and
I'm Albert Chavez.
And today we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. the one and only. I don't know why everybody else tries to steal it. The Vanilla Gorilla, Mr. Christian Echols. Hey, brother, how are you?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I'm good. How have you been?
I'm doing good. You just coming off a fresh dub a couple of weeks ago. No damage done. I said, look at here now.
I know you're looking good. We just thank you guys. Thank you for stopping by. We know you came on earlier on the show, and we kind of just wanted to dive more into your story. And like you said, we just got off of your fresh win too. Want to kind of explore that a little bit too. So I'm curious. I know you and Clinton are both from Alabama. I wanted to just get your thoughts on like how it was like growing up in there in the South. And I'm a Cali boy, so I've never really experienced that other than being there a couple times because I got some family out there.
Man, I'm from a super small town. I say a super small town. It started out when I was a kid growing up. There was nobody here that really had
nothing.
Money. Yeah, there was literally nothing. There was a couple red lights, and there was a Walmart. And when we got Walmart and a couple other little grocery stores, everybody went wild. It's grown tremendously now. We've got, like, just in the last 6 months, we've picked up like 10 different major chains of restaurants, and like we got I can't remember what all the stuff that's coming in. I don't want to sit here and lie to you, but man, just like small town. I'm trying to think of how to explain it. Like
hunting, fishing, all the good stuff, bro. All the good stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say the hunting and fishing stuff. So like I was a part of some of that, but I never was big on the hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
Well, I say fishing. My dad loved to do deep sea fishing.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what it would be like growing up in California, but really just everybody knows everybody. Fishing, hunting, just outdoorsy. Everybody's country out here.
Yeah.
There's very few city people.
City folks. We consider Birmingham city folks, which, you know, they wouldn't even really consider that a big city, but it's a big city to us, or it was for me.
It was for me too.
Yeah,
I think of Birmingham.
Well, look, we thought to us, Birmingham was like Atlanta. We were like, oh, we in this thing.
For sure.
So let me ask you a question. When did you start MMA training or jiu-jitsu? Which came first, and what age did you start really getting into that?
Started striking when I was my dad was a Golden Glove boxer before I was born.
Yeah.
And he had me like on the little counter, hitting the speed bag in the basement, hitting heavy bag. And then I was 8, I believe, whenever I started jiu-jitsu. And I won Golden Gloves as a kid, or I guess you call it like silver glove. I can't remember what they call it, the technical name, but I won a couple matches of Golden Gloves, and then I just kind of trained, did some smokers here and there. And then I found jiu-jitsu. My dad fell in love with jiu-jitsu because at that point, nobody knew jiu-jitsu. There was the Gracies, and there was like people knew what a headlock was, and that was about it.
The reverse headlock.
Yeah, dude, grab somebody's head. Man, that was kind of how it started, and then I just fell in love with jiu-jitsu because you couldn't fight whenever you're 8 to 16. There's nothing really you can do besides smoke or boxing matches and jiu-jitsu tournaments. And then I ended up finding about I guess I was 13. My dad found a way through to do an MMA fight. It was called a junior MMA fight.
Yeah.
We were supposed to wear headgear. We were supposed to wear shin guards, but
keywords.
We ended up saying, yeah. The promoter back then, there was no commission. So the promoter was like, hey, listen, screw that. You kids train, throw the MMA gloves on and get after it. And man, it turned out really bad. It was supposed to be, the kid was a Golden Glove boxer. I had 1 Golden Gloves. And it was supposed to be like a technical fight. We ended up headbutting, gashed my head open, gashed his eye open. And there was a lot of commotion that got built up.
It escalated quickly.
Yeah, our rival gym. So like in, again, a small town, there was only 2 gyms. It was my dad's gym. There was another gym down the road. And they went wild with it. They was like posting it on social media. They was like, Ray Echols fights his son for house payment. And just like Like it was a wild time.
Sheesh. I still remember we were in Las Vegas for one of the IBJJF events. And I remember I tell people this story still to this day. And I remember you might have been 17, 18, something like that. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? And you were like, I'm going to be a fighter and I'm going to be in the UFC. And that kind of sticks with me and resonates even to this day. So it's kind of like when I watch you fight, watching, I kind of feel old as hell because I'm like going back and thinking about it. But to see, it's kind of like I pour that much more into you because like I've seen the progression and what you're trying to do and what you're accomplishing. And it's cool to see you kind of transition and continue to move forward.
Yeah, man, I kind of made that promise to myself and like said that to everybody around me when I was halfway training, just half-ass fighting.
Yeah.
I wasn't really going hard on anything. I was out there. We talked about it last time. I was playing with drugs. I was
Yeah.
partying. I was going buck wild. And then when I sobered up, I was like, "Hey, whoa! I've wrote a check with my mouth. Now I got to cash it with my ass." So like, since I got sober and I fixed my life, man, I've just been hammering down.
Yeah. And proud of you because, you know, I know how easy it is to fall into the devil's trap and go in the complete opposite way. You know, so for you to stand up and be a man about yours and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to act holier than thou. I lived the wrong way. Now it's time for me to transition and do the right thing and continue to make the right decisions. That's a big thing. So you should give yourself kudos.
Was there something that sparked you to want to make that transition, to flip that switch finally, to go from like just an amateur fighter to a professional fighter?
Yeah. So are you referring to like in life? Or are you
Yeah.
talking about, because
Well,
I
you,
had something happen in fighting and I had something in life. Like,
well, yeah, you talked about like always having jujitsu being a part of your life, and then somehow you said you were involved with drugs and stuff like that. Was there something that like happened to you, like, okay, I got to get my shit together finally, and like time to put up or shut up, like you said?
yeah. So I started out as a kid. I was killing in jujitsu. I would go to Nagas, I'd go to IBJJFs, I'd go to all kinds of different tournaments, just local stuff, and I would win. I would beat all the other kids, and I was always pretty athletic. Around 16, maybe 17, I started playing with drugs. I was a high school football player. I was like small town star in football. So, well, I say small town star. For my high school, I was our star player. And man, I just fell into that like jock thing. And I was living it up. I was playing with steroids a little bit. And man, I let it all go to my head, played with it for a while, and in fighting, it changed because I ended up going 0-2 as a pro. And after going 0-2, people from work, people in my life were just like, "Hey, man, what do you think about hanging it up and just kind of doing that for fun, and like not being so serious about it? Like take over your dad's business, like just live a comfortable lifestyle." And that just fired me up, man. And I started thinking about it and I was like, there was a few things that kind of played into it. So sorry, I'm trying to like put the story together right now on the spot. I'm trying to
It's
put
good.
It's all good.
trying to put like where both things happened on the storyline together.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to jail. I'm just gonna start from where it all happened.
Yeah.
I ended up overdosing, went to jail, spent 2 months in jail. While I was in jail, I found God. I just realized like how far off the path I had gone from being a kid that was a pretty athletic guy that was like excelling in the sport. And everybody was like, "Man, you're going to be in the UFC," hyping me up. And like, I just sat in jail and just myself and just, I was like, man, I'm turning into a loser. Like everything that everybody said I was going to be, that I told everybody I was going to be, it's all out the window now. Like everybody from this hometown knows that I'm a drug addict. They know that I overdose. They know that I'm the best way to put it is a loser. And I mean, not a loser, but I felt like a loser.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, I was 0-1 as a pro, and I lost to Trayshawn Gore, who's in the UFC now. And this was before he was in the UFC, so I just thought I'd lost to some random guy. And I don't know, man. It just sat with me. When they finally opened that door and let me out, I just had it dead set in my mind. I was like, nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to the top. I'm going to get to the UFC. I expected to be in the UFC sooner, but I'm hanging on until we get there. But man, I ended up losing another one. So when I got out, I stuck with the same training process. I thought I was doing enough. I was training like 4 to 6 hours a week, and ended up losing to Derek Overstreet in Birmingham. And I just started kind of analyzing what was going on. And I was like, okay, these guys are training every day, all day long, or at least twice a day. And I was like, if I'm going to beat those guys, I've got to be doing what they're doing. So I talked to my dad. I was working for him in a low spot in life. And I was like, hey, man, I know it's not ideal, and you don't really believe in me right now because I'm 0-2, but I want to start training part-time, or not part-time, but almost full-time. I want to start working 3 days a week. I want to train 2 times a week. And he was like, I mean, if that's what you want to do, give it a shot, see how it goes. But he was tough love a little bit about it, but it was kind of like he just was like, hey, if you want me to throw you the wolves, go ahead. So I just kind of jumped in there, and I won the next. Okay, sorry, got a little caught up. I ended up switching gyms, so I was training at the house with some guys that I was top dog. I didn't really have anybody like teaching me necessarily. I was just kind of learning by training. I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. I'm gonna try that again. Hey, let's practice that after class. And I just met Matt Elkins, Matt Scaff, Brandon McCaffrey, indicator at 10th Planet. And I started training with them, and like they was telling me my striking's not that good. And they didn't say it like that, but in so many words, I'm thinking to myself,
they
like,
got the point across.
Yeah, they for sure got the point across. And man, it just kind of hit hard. I was like, oh, I'm not as good as I thought I was. Like the game's progressed, and I have stayed the same. And I told my dad, I was like, hey, I'm sorry. Like we was Gracie Baja. And I was with Gracie Baja for a long time. I got my brown belt under Khalifa Oliveira at Gracie Baja. I still love Khalifa. I have no type of hard feelings for anybody at Gracie Baja. But it was just, they were strictly jiu-jitsu gym. Mm-hmm. And 10th Planet had started opening up their MMA program. And this guy, I watched him beat my dad in a jiu-jitsu tournament. I'll never forget it. And his name's Matt Elkins. He's my head coach now. But I seen him beat my dad in a jiu-jitsu tournament. And like when you see somebody beat your dad in like a physical sport, it's like, hey, whoa, that guy's cool. You know, that was a little kid. Like that guy's really him. And I had the opportunity to train with him, and he showed me some really good stuff. Like the first 2 or 3 sessions working with him, and I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna leave the guys that I got my brown belt under, and I'm just gonna it's all or nothing right here. And when I met him, I started training with him for like I think I trained with him for like 3 months. And I was like, hey, how would you feel if I took a fight under the 10th Planet name? He let me take a fight. I went out there and beat the dude in like 30 seconds, maybe 14 seconds.
Wow.
And dude, I just felt like, okay, I'm a professional now. Like now I truly feel like a professional fighter. I'm training more. I just went in there and destroyed this guy that's got a decent record. And man, from there, I was balls to the wall with it. Once I got that taste of victory as a professional and I got paid for it, that was kind of the turning moment that like I'd beaten drug addiction. I'd found my new gym. Obviously, you know, me and Clinton talked about my daughter played a huge factor as far as me getting over drugs. And it was it almost felt like a way that I could make my daughter proud one day. And like, I still hang on to that. Like in my head, I had done so much wrong that my daughter was going to grow up hearing like, oh, your dad was a loser. He was a drug addict. He was this. And I was just like, I've got to find some way to make up for what I've done to my name. Like I had tarnished my name. And dude, once I got that taste of victory and everybody in my hometown was pumping me up and like cheering me on, I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things I almost like hearing your story. It's one of those things, you know, Drake said it, God's plan. it's one of those things that sometimes we have to get, and this is where I can relate to you as I was so far beaten down that in my mind, I felt like I was inadequate. I wasn't going to be able to. And even after you got out, it almost was like God tested you with that second loss, kind of to just see like, oh, okay, well, you say you want these things. I'm going to throw a little bit more adversity on you to see if you're still going to. And it's like you've made the decision to keep pushing forward and doing the right things. And as you see, the more right things that you do, it's kind of like good versus evil. Evil is the same way. When you make bad decisions, bad things start to add up. The same way with good things. And like I said, it's awesome to see you as you continue to make the right decisions. Like even your transformation lately with, your workouts and going down a weight class and all of that thing. And really good decision to work with Matt Elkins. And I'm a straight shooter. That guy is amazing. I knew him from back in the day, even back with Strike Hard, and I trained a couple of times with him. Super legit fighter, but even bigger than that, super good guy. And that's a big difference and a good thing for you to learn both of those things from him.
And it's also the solidarity part they talked about, being alone in the jail cell too. I feel like everyone at some point has felt like they're so alone, and then you feel like you're back against the wall. And I know you talk about it all the time. Sometimes that's when you're at your best, is when there's no other fucking option but to get over this hump, and you have to find some sort of way, and no one else is going to tell you how to do it. Even like though you had your father's business to kind of back on and help support you throughout that process, you're like, hey dad, like this is what I want to do. And that's when I think I had to do that with my father too, is be like, hey, like back off a little bit, I'm gonna handle my shit. And then that's when like they actually start to respect you and be like, okay Christian, I believe you. I know the past hasn't been there, but I know that you're gonna make it work down the line. So that's cool to witness.
So go ahead. No, go ahead.
Have you guys listened to like Shia LaBeouf, any of the podcasts that he's done?
A little bit.
Yeah.
So he talked about like there was always like a fallback. He said there was always a Brad Pitt on the phone. There was always somebody that like come to get him, and like put him back in that ego position.
Yeah.
That was kind of how I was. My dad's since I turned like around 17, he started making more money, and obviously with more money, he was there to like help me in any way he could because he loved me. But he was just always there to have my back. And when I went to jail, like I said, I overdosed. Everybody had seen that I was a drug addict. Everybody kind of was starting to think that I was playing with stuff. But at that time, I called him and I said, hey, Dad, if my friend puts up half of it, will you bail me out? And he was like, no, this is it. I'm done. You're going to learn your lesson. I'm sorry. I love you, but it is what it is. And dude, I sat there in the middle of the jail cell with like a bunch of tough guys around me. Obviously I was only in there for like a week. So I was still trying to like act like a tough guy in there, trying to like set the standard for myself. I let everybody know I'm not messing around. Man, when he told me that, I started tearing up and I was like, I'm stuck here because nobody was going to come to get me. And I ran out of the people on the phone to come get me, people to help me, people to put me back in that position. And I sat in there for 2 months. So like that happened on the first week. So I had the rest of my time in there to just sit there and soak in my misery and what I had put myself through. And it really, it forced me to like, while I was sitting there by myself, I was like, I had to like put everything aside and like just dial in on what I was going to do when I got out. Because I had been telling people for years, like, hey, I'm going to do this and I wouldn't do it. I'm going to do this and I wouldn't do it. And I was a talker. I was never a person that was like acting on what I was saying I was going to do. And I guess it was I finally had a sober mind thinking about it. And my sober mind was like, no, we're dead set on this. Like your dads give up on you. Everybody's giving up on you. Everybody thinks you're a loser. Make something of yourself. And it just hasn't left me. It's just stuck with me this whole time. I still got that thing in the back of my head.
That's awesome. So what are your goals or aspirations? Like what for your career over the next coming years? What is it that you would like to accomplish or do in the best case scenario?
Best case scenario. So I just got an offer for June 29th, and I would love to be able to take it. But if I could take June 29th and they find me an opponent, I would love to catch a win there and catch a contender series this season. Try to be signed in the UFC by the end of the year. And then, I mean, from there, obviously world title, but I would say drop down to 170 and just see what kind of damage I can do.
How did you feel going down? I know this last fight you went down. How do you feel going down a weight class? I mean, you look shredded before. I mean, not that you were ever like fat, like before you were just way more bulky, which also ends up, as you know, kind of kills the stamina. You look like a lean, mean. I had showed him. I was like, bro, this cat dropped down. He's gonna cause problems dropping down. How did it feel?
So I didn't get to drop down to 170 for this one. This one was at 185.
Yeah.
But I did drop down to like, I want to say I got down to 190 pounds while I was at Killcliff.
Yeah.
And I worked with Dr. Peacock. He's the sports scientist and the strength conditioning coach down there at Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
And he said I needed to lose 5 pounds of dry lean mass and 3% body fat to like ideally cut down to 170 and perform in the proper way.
Okay.
He was like, you could cut down to 170, but if you do it, you might run out of gas. And when you run out of gas, you know how that feels. That's not a feeling.
It's not a good feeling. Yeah.
So I ended up at probably the last week before I got the fight, they switched it back up to 185.
Okay. So with this next one that you're talking about taking in June, is it going to be at 70 or 85?
It's a smaller promotion, so I'd probably try to do a catch weight if I could.
Okay. So
try to do like 175.
Yeah.
Maybe 180. I don't know. So to be honest with you, the 170 thing was Eric's idea. And I don't hate the idea of it. But after talking to Dr. Peacock down there at Killcliff and just kind of seeing where I stand with these world-class guys, because I went down there before, but I only spent 2 weeks. And when you spend 2 weeks down there, you really don't get to see where you're at. You get to like set the tone for, hey, I'm down here and I'm with it.
Yeah.
Because all those guys in any MMA gym, I do it at our gym. There's just the same thing. Like if you come into sparring, like we can't be friends until me and you trade punches.
Right.
Yeah.
Once we trade blows and like I see where it's at.
It's like a respect thing. Yeah.
For sure. And it was like that. I got down there the first trip and I didn't really get to see anything. I was just kind of trying to not get my ass beat too bad, but this time I got to where like the first week it was kind of the same thing. Like, hey, remember, I'm still with it. And then the rest of the time I was learning and I was getting to make friends with these guys. And like, I was really getting to see where I was at with these world-class guys. And I kind of lost my confidence after I lost that fight last year, the Keenan Patterson fight.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of messed up my mental a little bit. Obviously I had some other things playing roles in there, but I kind of got my confidence back with this fight. And for a while I was sinking into like the 170 thought. Eric was like really pushing on me, but after this last fight, I don't mind going to the UFC 185 or 170, either one. But like, I did feel better, but there's something about fighting when you drop weight. When you drop enough body weight, you almost like fight different. I'm a pressure fighter. So like I'm in your face. I'm hitting you. I'm trying to like make you miss, and then I'm going to double leg you.
Yeah.
However, I decided to fight. When I would drop down that weight, I almost felt so small that I was trying to be like more agile, more like moving different. So I feel like I would really need time to like drop the weight down. Have a practice cut and like really get to like train it that way.
I agree. That's why when you say that, I would drop down to 170 with the smaller promotions, and not saying that the smaller promotions are going to be cakewalks, because some of those dudes coming up are legit, but I would suggest that you cut down to the 170 because it is a different. I've fought at 55 and at 70, and it's two totally different fighting. I don't want to say different fighting styles because I'm always like Rocky, just walk forward and get punched. That's just the way I am. But it's different at 55 and 70. I agree 100%.
I know you've been weight cutting for so long. I'm just curious, like, does that affect your fighting style when you know you have to cut weight in such a short amount of time?
As far, are you talking about like for the fight,
Yeah,
like on the day before?
yeah, the actual fight, like when you guys are prepping and doing all your weight cuts, how does that impact you as a fighter when you're in the octagon against your opponent?
Man, I've kind of dialed it all in. So I have a nutritionist, Maya Lee with Right Way Nutrition in Birmingham. She has got me. We figured out the weight cutting process. For a long time, I was just kind of winging it. Like everybody does that at amateur, and a lot of people do it for the first couple pros. But dude, she knows how my body works. She knows when she feeds it, like whenever she tells me to eat this, she gives me my meal plan that like I tell her, hey, I perform better eating this way. And we've been working together long enough to where it doesn't really the way that we do it, she keeps carbs in me. And like towards the end of the diet, we'll start carb loading in the mornings, and we'll like as the day goes on, we'll start dropping carbs.
Mm.
By the time dinner comes around, there's no carbs and the weight just falls off of me. And I mean that's why in this fight, a lot of people, it's not just y'all, like they're like, dude, you look good cut down to 170. And I'm like, man, I did this one at 85. That wasn't even me at 170. You know, like my body's changed a lot because me and her just we're working great together now. For the first little bit, it was kind of like a science project for both of us.
Yeah, it makes a big difference when you have somebody that knows what they're doing, because I've seen some guys cut weight and it's like, bro,
Definitely.
oh my gosh, yeah, like, bro.
Yeah,
stop.
and so instead of I used to do 16 pounds of water,
Yeah,
which is a really big water cut
yeah,
for
big.
a 24-hour cut, but man, I got it now to where I diet down. I water cut about 10 to 12 pounds at most, and I feel great. This
Yeah.
fight, about halfway through the first round, I was on top of him, beating him up, and I was like, shit.
I can go another two.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I've never been just a cardio king, you know, like, and for 4 minutes, I did not stop throwing punches.
Well, you
Like, we got to do it. Yeah, I was about to say, dude, when I got on top, I got excited because like I hit him with like the overhand, and I took a step back to just kind of reassess because I got a little wild and I could feel it. And when it landed, I was like, okay, I got to chill out. So I stepped back, and he like fell over and looked up at me. He was just lifeless in his eyes. And I was like, oh shit, he's hurt. So I just jumped him.
Pounce.
Yeah, I smelt that blood, and I was just like, screw it, I'm killing.
I love it. So this is a fun personal question that I like to ask all the fighters that we've talked with. Is there something that you do either day of the fight or week of the fight, some sort of ritual to get you mentally focused to get into the octagon?
Ritual I would do. Not really. I mean, I pray before fights. That's a huge one. That brings some sense of calmness when I get in the cage.
Peace. When you have that faith and that belief and knowing that he's going to guide you whatever way you're supposed to go, you can't even explain it. Yeah.
So, like, just to circle back, like the jail story, when I found God in jail, it also helped me accept the fact of like, whatever happens. It's part of the plan. I just got to accept it. And it's almost, my buddy Eli Baker prayed over me before this last fight. And dude, when I got in there, I was just like, if he knocks me out, he knocks me out. If he taps me out, he taps me out. Like I know what I'm capable of. I'm ready. I did everything I could to prepare. And obviously preparation helps a lot too. It's not just the prayer, but man, fight week, I wouldn't say anything other than just praying and just relaxing. Like that week, I try to take it nice and chill and maybe do a little cardio. That's about it.
I mean, that's huge. Just letting go of everything else. We put so much pressure on ourselves to like perform, especially when someone's going to attack you. So I'm sure it feels really nice just to, have the people.
Well, it's always, I always tell him it's funny because not that the exercise, the being in shape, all of that stuff doesn't come into it, because it is a major part. But the biggest part of all is the mental. And it can be one doubt or one whatever in your mind, and you can make it the biggest thing. So the mental warfare is the biggest thing. And when you have God on your side and cast out, the devil, it makes things a lot more simplistic because you have faith knowing I've done what I'm supposed to do and I'm here to let him guide me and use me as a vessel in whatever way that is. And the peace of mind, it's unexplainable. So one of the things that we added since last time we added a rapid fire question session. So we're going to go through. We got about 5 or 6 questions we'll go through. Just answer whatever fighter comes to your mind first. So we'll go first. What was your favorite fighter growing up?
George St. Pierre.
Ooh, that's a good one. What fighter that you have fought or trained with has hit the hardest?
Probably RoboCop.
What fighter would you most want to be friends with outside of the octagon that you would vibe with?
Which fighter have I vibed best with?
Or which would you, like, if you were like, hey, you know what? This dude would be the guy that I could see us being friends.
Based on my past, I would say John Jones.
The killer.
Man, honestly, I would say Ang Lao Sang, the guy from One Championship.
Yeah.
Man, he's just like me. Like, he's outside of the cage. And I know you said which one would I, but like, he's my favorite fighter of all time just because outside of the cage, he's so nice. But when you watch his highlight reel, that man is violent.
Violent inside.
You have to have that switch,
Yeah.
So given the opportunity, who would you want to fight most in the UFC?
Colby Covington.
You wouldn't, let me ask you a question. You wouldn't want Trayshawn Gore to get the revenge?
Yeah. So Trayshawn's also an incredibly nice guy.
I know. Yeah.
We made friends after the fight. So like, I don't have like a sense of like revenge after him, but like I would fight him again for sure, just to get that one back. Right. So like,
always
I
gotta
want it.
Always gotta have the run it back.
Yeah. Now Keenan Patterson, he's getting the smoke at some point.
Bring it.
So who are your top 5 fighters of all time?
Top 5. George St. Pierre, John Jones, Volkanovski, and man, some hard one. I like Sean O'Malley. I really dig him. He's super dope. He's got a good vibe to him. Let's see here. Who else? This is just UFC?
You can bring in one. You can bring in whoever you want, fighter that you want.
I'm going to go Ang Lao for my 5th one just because he's the homie.
Of course. Got to represent.
For sure.
So this one's a fun one. We like to add this one in too. So if there was a zombie apocalypse, what one fighter would you want by your side?
John Jones. I see him out there with he's out there with the pistols all the time.
Good luck if the zombies come to Coleman. They ain't gonna make it anyway.
For sure.
No shot.
All right. So look, if today was your last day, and this is a deep one, if today was your last day, you've been through a lot of things, you've triumphed over a lot of things, and you still got a lot to do. If today, though, was your last day, what would the one thing that you would want people to remember you for?
Somebody that just would never stop. Somebody just like when he said he was going to do something, he would make it happen.
I love it.
I think it's better.
Yeah.
Well, it's I mean, we watched the one that you guys had before when it was just you two, and then just taking in the story that you brought today. I can see it just with your daughter being such a huge influence on being like, hey, I got to provide for her, right? And then also taking ownership, looking in the mirror, asking God for forgiveness, and being like, hey, I know I fucked up. I know this is not where it was supposed to be. I talked a lot, talked a big game, and now it's time to actually do something about it. That to me is probably the biggest transformation. At some point, every man has had to go through that. Every human, but every man has had to make that decision at some point in life to say, enough is enough, and I need to make this transition if I'm gonna be successful in life. And so,
Yeah.
especially for someone we're about the same age, I'm 25. It's really amazing to have you share that story, because everyone's going to have to make that decision and be like, no, I want my reputation to last a long time. I want to see my family thrive. I want to see the people that I care about know the real me. And I heard a lot of that today. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
It means a lot.
For sure, man.
and for me, your story, I don't think that you all the way know it yet. And as you get a little bit older, you'll get a bigger sense of things. But your story and the things that you're going through are very powerful, and the things that you're doing for your daughter, for you, for your faith, and it's very powerful. And it's moving to see such a young man make the choice to be and do better, and not make excuses to do the wrong things, but instead stand up and be a man about theirs and continue to push forward. So
I
number
really
one,
appreciate it.
yeah, I'm proud of you, and I know you said something earlier that I want to debunk from you, is about wanting to make your daughter proud and redo what you've done in the past. You've redone what you've done in the past tenfold, and don't ever let any of that stuff hang over your head, because you've made the choice to be and do better. And I guarantee you, your daughter, me, and anybody that truly knows you knows where you came from, and to see what you're doing, it's heaven sent. And man, just keep pushing and keep doing the right things. I've told you this 1,000 times. I'm forever here. Anything that I can do to help you, I'm here for. And just know that I am your daughter, all of your people are proud of you. The ones that actually know you, we love you, and are grateful that you continue to go forward.
Man, I really appreciate y'all saying that. Really means
Yeah.
a lot.
So
Man, what you just said, I think that's kind of where where I took that loss last year. We had talked about it before, where like I was dating that girl, I let her get to my head, and like I just kind of lost myself. I almost, just sitting here thinking about it, I almost in a sense think that that's kind of what happened. Was like I hit a point in my head where I was like, okay, I've made up. Because again, going back to the small town, everybody here supports me. Like the local news stations, everybody's posting me and doing this and doing that. It's like I almost hit like a point where I was like, okay, I made up for my wrongdoing. People don't look at me like a loser now. And I was just kind of lost. So I started trying to like find that in a girl, and then that ruined the whole thing. And then I had like a 6-7 month period where I was kind of lost. Like mentally I was lost.
yeah,
But I've going down to Killcliff, and like a couple months before that, I kind of talked to some people about it. But I almost feel like I like found my new self. Like today, I feel like when I got in the cage the other night, I felt so confident. I felt so good. Like I just felt like me again. I was like, this is what I do. Like it doesn't. I talked about like my past stuff, because that's how it all started, getting me like hungry to chase this thing. But now I almost feel like, all right, I've gone beyond breaking even with like my record, with my lifestyle, with everything. I've gone beyond breaking even. Now now this is for me. This isn't for anybody else. This is for my legacy. This is for me, like showing people like who I am.
yeah. And it's like a snake. You have to shed, and you have to be reborn and rebirthed. And I see it in you, and again, I'm proud of you, and just keep moving forward. And I have no doubt you will eventually be where it is you're supposed to be, and
sure.
whether that be the UFC or wherever else, because you keep moving forward and doing the right things.
And I mean, I kind of feel like that's the thing with the giving it to God. I'm just like, if the UFC doesn't happen, the PFL, if the PFL, Bellator, just like wherever I do end up at this point, I'm cool with it. You know, like I'm going to work hard and I'm going to get to wherever God takes me. And like, I'm going to take care of my daughter. I'm going to take care of my people around me and just freaking grind. I had something else I was going to piggyback up off of that you said. I can't remember what it was. I don't know. I'll think of it.
I love it. Well, we appreciate you for coming on. Thank you so much. And like I said, you've got my number. You've got my slide in my DM. Whatever you need from me, I'm always here for you.
For sure.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you.